Terry Olson, back in 1975 is when I met Terry Olson. This is his second edition, but about the fifth book he wrote. We have copies. In fact, a lot of these books, which we have about 7, I've got about 7 of his books. This one was the one I like. He has the third edition out now that has foot and scalp acupuncture and acupuncture points in it. But this is spiral bound, and you can open it up to where you can print these and all the functional points and all the supplementary master points and all the primary major master points. But you can overdo, you can treat too many points. If you treat either 10 to 15 points, it's usually 2 or 3 of them that do 90% of your work. This is what we didn't start with this at UCLA. UCLA started working with some of the earlier devices, but this one's been around a long time. It's called the Stimplex 400A that we measured in mag-ohms, and we'll show a close-up of the controls a little later on some of the presentation. And it's measured in mag-ohms, which we'll show you. In fact, we're looking at the tip and the ring. This is the positive, this is the negative outer ring over here. And put it on a meter. This can be positive or that can be negative. If it swings to the right on the meter, that's a negative point. If it swings to the left, that's a positive point, like you see here. That could be reverse of that. The patient holds an anode in the hand, and we use a bipolar spring-loaded electrode. The positive is spring-loaded, the tip and the ring is spring-loaded. And if, no matter what the resistance might be, if it's very conductive, it stays right in the center on the meter. If it's very conductive on the positive end and high resistance on the ring, that means that needle will swing to the left. If it's just the opposite of that, where this is, the tip is more resistant and the outer ring is positive, it'll swing to the right and automatically give you a negative treatment, negative automatically. I've drawn a little diagram here. No matter what the resistance is, if the resistance is 8 mag-ohms positive and 8 mag-ohms resistant, that means the needle stays right in the center. If the resistance is 2 mag-ohms positive, 2 mag-ohms negative, it'll still stay right in the center. It's when the ring is resistant and the center tip is positive, it'll give you a 2 mag-ohm rating. So if it's equal, it doesn't give you that. If, on the other hand, the center electrode is negative here, and the outer ring is, say, 7 or 8 mag-ohms, it may give you a 3 or a 2 mag-ohm reading, or even a 1 or a 0.1 mag-ohm. The lower the reading on negative, or the lower the reading on the positive, is the point that's going to generally do 90% of your work. So that no matter how conductive both points are, or how resistant they are, if it's equal, it is not considered a point. And here we have the positive on the left, the negative on the right, and it's measured and scaled off for you in mag-ohms, like you see here. Even the surge current flowing at 1 microamp can be effective if it's the right point, even if it's not pulsating. But we have certain frequencies, like if we're dealing with musculoskeletal body, we treat that point at 10 hertz, a frequency. If we're dealing with addictions or the brain points, those are all treated at 80 hertz, 80 pulses per second. If you're dealing with visceral problems, it's all done at 5 hertz. If we turn this on, we see a needle swing up to the center, and we can tell that the little red light's on in the center indicating a positive, that we have the switch in the negative pole. We set it in the automatic pole, so if the reading goes to negative and we find a point in the negative, we push this button and the red light comes on, giving us an indication that we're treating from the ring positive to the center tip negative. So you're delivering a negative square wave. On the other hand, if the needle goes to the right, to the left, you see here, and we push the button to treat it, we're going to the left, the light doesn't come on, and we're treating with the positive. It's going from the ring negative to the tip positive. So this automatically, the term auto means automatic, treats with the polarity in which it picks it up. So the fact that by searching this with the spring compressed, not to the bottom of the spring, but about 10 to 20 to 30% or 50% would be okay. But the light pressure, since they're both spring loaded, you want as light a pressure as possible. You want the ear very clean, removing all of the skin oil, all of the spray, everything from the ear to where you have no residue or moisture or hairspray or anything that will cause you to get a false indication, a false reading. Weak techniques work to a degree. Right points, it takes a lot less points. 80 to 90% of our effectiveness is generally from 1 to 2 to 3 of those points, and sometimes just 1. Many times 1 point will be effective better than a dozen points. So it didn't take a long time to pick up on that and learn that less is better, that the fewer points you treat, keeping this clean. And many times I've seen these electrodes come in to where we had hairspray, not hairspray, but necessarily dead skin and oils, and these were clogged up, that whoever was using it didn't know this had a center electrode in it. So you can see the tip here, which is spring loaded. There we can see it. And oils and residue will get up in there and clog this up. So to pull this back and wipe it off between patients, ideally in front of the patient, because then they not only, and you don't tell them I'm cleaning your ear, tell them you're removing all of the oils and all the dead skin or anything residue that was left on there when you showered this morning, to make everything very smooth and very clean. And also the ear very tight. As an example, when we're working with the ear, you want the skin not to roll up like you see here. You want the skin to be loose like this. You have to use back pressure, and you have to press perpendicular. You want the probe as perpendicular as possible. And then when you find that needle, go over and move it very slowly. As you see the probe moving like this, that's about 10 times too fast. A movement that you hardly see move with the tight skin is the way you want it, and you want it perpendicular to the skin surface like so. You don't want it cocked at angles like this. You want it very perpendicular to the skin surface. You don't want the skin to move. You want it tight, and you want to glide it so slow that you hardly see it moving, and then you'll see that needle swing. See the needle swing over there to almost 1 megohm. Now this is on the body. You're going to find more electrical measurements in megohms on the ear, certainly, than you're on the body. This is not designed for the body. For the body, we use a monopolar. We use monopolar electrodes for the body. And we keep this probe perpendicular. We use 1 hertz as the universal frequency, which we rarely use anymore. It'll read everything. 2.5 hertz is subtragus. 5 hertz is for visceral, for your internal organs. 10 hertz for all the musculoskeletal body. And no matter which dermal layer you're in, you still use 10 hertz. Use 20 hertz, that's the tragus. 40 hertz for the spinal cord. The spinal cord is from Darwin's tubercle. The tail of the helix is the spinal cord. This is the cervical spinal cord. This is the thoracic. This is lumbar. And this is the sacrum. We use the spinal cord for inflammatory conditions. We use the spinal cord if you have skin problems, like you have burns, psoriasis, herpes zoster, or acne, or any skin problem. We back it up with the spinal cord, and all skin problems are backed up according to the Chinese with the lung points and the kidney point, and urticaria. Urticaria is a skin condition itself, but that's support help for all your skin problems, whether it's a burn, psoriasis, herpes zoster, acne, poison oak, poison ivy, any sunburn. You can take 70–80% of the pain out of a sunburn, and half of the redness will leave in about 5 minutes. So it's pretty impressive for skin problems. For addiction problems, we back up. We have a nicotine point, which sounds like it'd be the primary target for smoking, but the lungs really are. Lung 1, which is Chinese. Lung 2, which is both Chinese and French, for smoking. The mouth point. the palate point. The palate I find right about in the center on a straight line from the antitragus, and about halfway between the tip of the antitragus to the tip of the lobe. It's halfway between. So draw an X here, and here the palate point is right there. So look at all of the landmarks to find these points. Like here's the brain point, which is sub-antitragus. Sometimes that's used in your chronic smokers. So the brain point, the lung and kidney is the primary targets for smokers. The Shinmen point, the 0 point, the palate point, and the nicotine point.